Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Star Trek The Original Series Starship Legends NCC-1701-A Enterprise. For those thinking that Spot had already had a look at the NCC-1701-A, actually, what we had a look at on this channel was the NCC-1701 retrofitted movie version of the original Enterprise, which, as you remember, that Enterprise survives all the way through until the search for Spock, Star Trek III, in which sadly, that Enterprise is set for self-destruct, blowing up not only itself, but all the Klingons that boarded onto the ship. The Star Trek NCC-1701-A makes its first appearance in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, after a bit of a gap in Star Trek IV, where the crew travels back in time with a bird of prey. Very anxious to get a look at the NCC-1701-A. Technically, I've already taken it out because I had to put some batteries in there. It does have a warning: choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years of age. Coming to us from the folks over at Diamond Select Toys and Art Asylum. Head over to www.diamondselecttoys.com, www.artasylum.com, and if you guys are interested in upcoming and new releases from Diamond Select Toys, Spot will also put the new YouTube channel that Diamond Select has as well. So if you want to see some up-and-coming collectibles, Zach and the other folks over at Diamond Select Toys got you covered. The side of the box also has the same kind of familiar box as well as the other Star Trek Enterprise that we looked at, featuring as well a very young Bill Shatner. Spin around the back of the box, you've got yourself a somewhat, not side profile, but a slightly three-quarter flipped top view of the ship. The NCC-1701-A is 304 meters in length. It has 21 decks, 510 crew, and a max speed of warp 9.2. Warp 9.2. Following the destruction of the Starship Enterprise, a new ship, the NCC-1701-A, was commissioned in 2286 and named in honor of the legendary ship and its heroic crew. This new Enterprise, Spot's got a tickle in his throat, commanded once again by James T. Kirk, traveled to the center of the galaxy and made first contact with a godlike being that lived there. What does God need with a starship? They would ask. The ship then battled and defeated an experimental bird of prey controlled by rogue elements within the Klingon Empire, making a lasting peace possible between the Empire and the Federation. While its time in service it was relatively short, the starship's heroic exploits helped ensure that history would never forget the name Enterprise. That is your packaging aside. Spot's going to take himself a break and get this opened up. When we come back, though, we're going to get a better look at the U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701-A. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. If you're relatively new to collecting the Starship displays from the folks over at Diamond Select, one thing that you will be pleasantly rewarded with is this really cool display stand that's going to house the ship on top. As you can see, it features the classic Star Trek logo, and it has a curved face, like a little curved neck plate that attaches just to the slot here. It sits very securely inside, and then you've got the ball joint here that the ship will sit on top of. It's a nice way to display the figure, or display the ship, and it's not just a simple neck face. It gives you something a little bit more dynamic. The other thing that comes included with the ship as well, and I didn't actually take the time to install it just yet so I could show you, is it does have an interchangeable plate. If you look at the ship currently, the ship on the underside has a finished plate that does not have the socket placement for where the ball joint will attach to the underbody here. So you would have to take a screwdriver. In this case, Spot's got his Batarang screwdriver. And we can just unscrew the plate here, where not only will you have access to the battery section, and you'll also have the button to change from Try Me to a full play feature. We just go ahead and unscrew this like so. For battery options, what you need is 3 AAA batteries. I've put some brand new batteries in there as well. And you've got your little switch that goes from a try to a full play mode. The try will only have a limited selection of phrases and sound effects. Play will give you all the options. Once that's in place, you can go ahead now. And now I'm going to replace it with the socketed underbelly so that I can now display it with the display stand, making of course sure the little cable here for the batteries is tucked in there as well. With that now in place, I can go ahead and screw it back in with my utility belt, my Batarang screwdriver. Tighten that back up, and we'll then have a look at the rest of the ship. The next step would be to take the socket, the open area on the underbelly of the ship, and attach it to the ball joint that's attached to the, well, essentially to the display stand, giving you a look that would look like this. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, the ship that I have, let me just show you what I'm looking at here. The undersection right here seems to have a much smaller spot than what would accommodate that ball joint. And initially, I was going to do some surgery. I took the plate off, and underneath, there's like a little, underneath this plate, there's essentially like a little square plate that you can remove this completely, this interior ring. But what it ends up doing is it just becomes then too loose, and it goes right through the ball joint. I need to find like some happy medium. Might take a little bit of sandpaper to see if I can sand away that hole so it will fit onto the actual ball joint. As it stands right now, this particular ship, I can't get onto the display base ball joint, and I'm worried I don't want this snapping on me by putting too much pressure, so I might end up just sanding it a little bit so I can actually get it on the display base. It's a shame that I can't simply just get it right on the base, but again, it just does not want to accommodate. You can even see it right there. There's the hole. There's the hole there. There's the ball joint. The ball joint's almost about the size of the hole that's currently in the ship, and then there's an interior ring on top of that. Way too small for this to actually fit. But nonetheless, we will continue the rest of this review looking at the ship itself. Despite the flaws of not being able to get it on this display stand, the ship is very impressive. Yes, of all the Enterprises, the Enterprise 1A has always been my personal favorite. In fact, it is my favorite starship or ship in general from any sci-fi movie. Now, the Enterprise 1A is not really that much different than the original Enterprise NCC-1701 retrofit, which had a few variations around the additional section of the lower base of the ship. Had some additional blue there, and I believe it had additional blue at the top here as well. The overall look of the ship, though, is roughly about the same, with the back nacelles or the back thrusters being roughly about the same as what we saw before. The coloring on it is not as vibrant as I was expecting it to necessarily be. The back section here I thought would have been a darker black. Now, keeping in mind, there are a couple of variations to the NCC-1701-A. This is, I would say, more so closer to the NCC-1701-A from Star Trek VI. As you'll see when we get to the sound effect portion of it, majority of the sound effects and voice clips are taken from Undiscovered Country. But that being said, though, there are variations to the ships. There was a Wrath of Khan version of, I guess, essentially the NCC-1701, which I don't think was the one I looked at. I looked at the retrofit version. And then I think there was also another one as well from Part 5. So results may vary depending on which ship you're able to get your hands on. The downside to the ships, though, and no fault to Diamond Select, is that they're very expensive. Case in point, if you go online and you look on eBay right now at the Diamond Select ships, you'll see that they are catching a walloping amount for what you can pick them up for. I would say they're worth it, but scalpers' prices, of course, will vary, and some of the prices are extremely skyrocketed from essentially an initial cost of these ships being about a $30 to $50 price point. You would not be surprised to find the Enterprise 1A going for closer to $300 on eBay. So let's look at some of the details on the NCC-1701-A. Of course, you've got the ship's release, I guess it's release numbers here, NCC-1701-A. U.S.S. Enterprise right atop that. There's even actually at the back here an Enterprise NCC-1701-A in smaller print. All the windows here are nicely painted in almost a cream, almost like a cream white with an outline trim here in red, some yellows, some nice of this. It's almost more like a blue-based gray that makes up. Nice Aztecing in the sculpt. Unfortunately, there's no additional secondary wash to bring some of those individual plate details to the foreground. What you ended up really getting here is basically one singular color, although the Aztec portions of the saucer section have more of a textured feel to them rather than the smooth coloring of, or the smooth surface of the rest of the ship. The retrofit version that I had before, if you wanted to have a look at that video review, had almost a slightly off-white color, closer to almost a more pearl color, a pearl white, which I kind of like more like the more stark white here on this particular Enterprise. Then you've got some details here at the back. On the back of the thrusters, NCC-1701-A, United Federation of Planets. I have one Starfleet logo that's slightly worn off. If you flip it around the back of the other side of the ship, the other side seems perfectly fine. You got Starship, U.S.S. Enterprise, United Federation of Planets down the side there. And I think this is like a loading dock or loading door. Of course, you got your torpedo launcher at the front there. Your phasers located at the top or on the underside there of the saucer section. Again, some really nice coloring. It favors more so closer to more a lot of these blues, the grayish blues being shown as the predominant color, a lot less grays and a lot less blacks, more gold. Now this I thought was more into the scheme of being black, but it's been painted here in gold and the lighter blue there at the front and some blue painted nicely at the back there as well. Some NCC-1701 there, also featured at the back, and of course, right by the shuttle bay, you've got Enterprise written down below as well. Slightly offset just by the way it's assembled, but other than that, no issues whatsoever. Alright, so despite the fact the hiccup with getting this on display right off the bat, it does still have lights and sounds, and we'll hit the button and activate that right now. The activation point is right at the top there, more primarily where the bridge section of the saucer section would be. Saucer section. Go ahead and we'll press the button right here. You'll have a light up feature on the front as well as the back section here. And of course the back nacelles will also light up. Again, we'll press the button and you can see.
If I were human, I believe my response would be, go to hell.
And we'll press it again.
Second start of the run, and straight on to warning.
One of the other things I noticed with this particular release of this Starship is that the back section, which I always thought primarily would be more so red, here on the ship is in white,
My
of
friends,
all things.
we've come home.
And we'll press again.
What's the matter, Jim? I miss my old chair. Engine room, we'll need all the power you can muster, mister.
And as you can probably hear so far, a lot of those clips are being pulled from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Let's see what you've got.
With a few notable...
Scotty, lower shields.
With some notable exceptions for Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
As captain, I am responsible for the conduct of the crew under my command.
Which was taken from Star Trek VI.
Send to Commander Enterprise. We stand ready to assist you. Captain Sulu, U.S.S. Excelsior.
Taken from Star Trek VI. Now let's go ahead and cut the lights, and you can see more of the light-up functions featured on the Enterprise.
Where's that damn torpedo? It's ready, Jim! Lock and load! Fire! Once again, we've saved civilization as we know it.
Like with some of the other starships you can do as well, if you hold the bridge, the ship will always stay on. It'll stay on for a period of time. So you've got your front deflector dish lit up in blue, as well as your thrusters back, the back nacelles in blue, and the back section there also lit up. Again, it won't last for a long period of time, but you can still, again, hold it and get a little bit of a longer effect holding it that way. As you can see, again, the back section here I thought would be more of a red color as opposed to the white that's coming through. Some of the other notable things too is I find the back thrusters light up very brightly, a little almost too bright. Press the button again.
We've come home. What's the matter, Jim? I miss my old chair. Engine room, we'll need all the power you can muster, mister. Let's see what you've got.
And trying to get the back thrusters to light up here. It's not as predominant here until you have the lights cut, but I do find like this back section shows very much the white lights shining through it, as well as the back section here. Overall, a really good looking ship. The NCC-1701-A has still always been my favorite go-to for when it comes to sci-fi released ships. The only downside to this particular release, I just wish I could get the display stand to house properly into the under cavity of the ship itself. I might just take a little bit and kind of whittle that away so I can eventually get it properly housed on top of the ball joint. Certainly fans for Star Trek, I think you would want to definitely pick this one up. Downside though, I would say try to find it not in an aftermarket format via like eBay and whatnot. Try to find this maybe in your local comic book stores. You can probably still get them for the price that they paid and not so much the price that scalpers want to charge for these. They're worth it, but certainly for a scalper's price, I don't think that I would be spending necessarily $200 to $300 on these. So if you can get them at a good price, I would really highly recommend the NCC-1701-A to be added to your Starfleet ship catalog, at least for displaying. Today's collectible spot, we were having a look at the Diamond Select toys. This was essentially the Star Trek NCC-1701-A from, I guess more importantly, the Undiscovered Country, but I guess also from the Final Frontier as well. Stay tuned, guys. Certainly stay tuned. Spot's got more videos heading your way as well. Don't forget as well, if you want to check out Diamond Select's YouTube channel, I'll put the link down below as well. So check out my channel, check out Diamond Select's channel. You can see some upcoming releases that they've got on their end as well. Thanks for watching as you always do, guys. I'll see you next time.